Hello, everybody. Welcome to Mastering Mental Wellness. No one's here in the chat yet,
Yeah.
but that's okay. They'll
Yes.
catch up.
Yes.
So,
Hello, everyone.
this is my lovely, lovely co-host, Sir Isaac. I forgot to change my name. Um,
I didn't notice that.
oops. Let's
Oh,
see if I can even spell my name.
hello, G. Covington. G. Covington is here.
Hi, G. Covington. I'm here, she said. Yay. Somebody. Well, today's very intriguing topic is called sex addiction.
Yes.
And are you addicted to sex?
Mm.
And what does that mean? And
Yes.
how do we help someone steer away from that? I
Mm-hmm.
guess would be, I think we usually just say they're a pervert, right?
That's what
They
we
just can't get
usually,
enough. But
right, but it's
so,
different.
hi, Rose. More leaks, not good.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. She's got like one room where the floor is about to bust out from leaks.
Really?
Yeah, that
Because
sucks. I
because of
hate
this
that.
weather. Yeah.
Probably so, because she's in Texas.
Oh, wow. So they're getting
So
a
they're
cold winter
getting
too.
slammed even harder than us. It's kind of, most of what's slamming Texas is kind of going northeast.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're getting like the edges of it.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
worst of it is a little higher than us.
Mm-hmm.
And then heading into Mississippi and areas beyond.
Right.
So, have y'all gotten a lot of storms, or you just got the cold?
Um, a few storms, mostly just cold.
Okay.
Mostly just cold weather. A couple of mornings or in late in the evening, it would rain really hard.
Yeah.
And but other than that, it's just cold. It's
Yeah. Well, like I said,
unusually cold.
unusually cold. Yeah. This is. I was I was either in the chat or on a live earlier in the week, and I was complaining about how cold it was, and somebody says, "Well, wear your coat," and I said, "I don't have a coat."
Right, right,
They're like, "Why don't you have a coat?" I said, "Because I live in Louisiana. What do I
right,
need a coat for?"
right. You just put on a
Dig
light
it out of the
jacket.
back of the closet twice a year to wear it for 3 days. I mean,
Yeah.
I just don't own
Hmm.
a coat. But when I could really use one is when I get really tempted to go ahead and go spend the money and buy a coat. And
Hmm.
then I think, yeah, no, then I got to deal with all that crap and put it away and
Yeah.
hope it's not full of critters.
Hmm.
Um, Hi, Hippie. I know Hippie's got snow. She's in Colorado.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so I don't know if y'all noticed our thumbnail before we got started, but that was on a recent trip Isaac and I took to the Swiss Alps, and so we posed for a few pictures.
Yes, we did.
Isaac was like, "I don't remember taking that picture." And I'm like, "Yeah, no, you didn't." It's called the wonders of AI, the things you
Yeah.
can do with it. I love playing with that app. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, at least the metal beams are close together.
Hmm.
Um, so anyway, so today's topic is sex addiction.
Hmm.
What is it?
Hmm.
How do you get labeled with that? How
Hmm.
is it fixable?
Hmm.
And I'm going to turn it over to the expert here,
Oh, I don't know how
our
much of an
counselor
expert.
par excellence,
Uh-huh.
and let him explain all that good
Hmm.
stuff. And
Well, I did take a CSAC course in sex addiction for treating, identifying, but in the where I worked at Pine Grove, it was like if we had other facilities that did certain things, I mostly did just like chemical addiction. And but we had to know what they were doing so that we would, be able to identify and assess and refer individuals. But sex addiction is considered to be a process addiction. And most people call it compulsive sexual behavior. And most disorders that we talk about are listed in the DSM uh, diagnostic manual for mental disorders.
Mhm.
But this in DSM-5, they took sex addiction out because some people, they had disagreements as to whether or not it was an addiction. And just a lot, like some people don't believe that chemical addiction is an addiction. They just say the person should stop, but that's not the way it.
Yeah, that's gonna work.
Right. Yeah, they just say you should just
You're
stop.
physically
It
addicted to a drug, but, yeah, I'm just gonna stop and not do it anymore. You may
Right,
want to, but
right.
being able to are
Mhm,
2 totally different things.
mhm,
So,
right.
um,
It it
I
it it
I go ahead.
some of the criteria is if a person is, uh, going out, and we call it acting out sexually, and if it's causing them problems in their personal lives, or if it's they're having, they're putting themselves their life in danger, or their health in danger, or
Mhm.
they're keeping or parts of their sexual behavior that they're keeping secret from other people. There are certain ways that you start to diagnose it. In G Covenant says like food addiction. Yeah, that
Food addiction.
all of those fall in the category of process addiction because they're behaviors: food, shopping, sex,
Yeah,
gaming, and there's a lot of and somebody I
yeah,
saw somebody said there's a lot of young people. They say that a lot of young m- nowadays most people are being exposed to pornography around the age between the ages of 9 and 11. And so that's sort of like that
that kinda
forms their.
distorts. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And it's almost like watching it over and over. If you remember back in the 70s when they had MTV and they would do
Mhm.
the videos, and then you just sit there and watch videos, even if and then they're playing them on a loop, and
Yeah,
you're in your mind, you're saying, I've seen this, but you're still sitting there watching it. That's a
yeah,
lot of what's going on with it. It's triggering chemicals in the brain that are
yeah,
satisfying, and people can tend to get caught up in this. It's it well, let me say this. It's difficult, but it's treatable. It's treatable.
right.
Yeah.
And I would
They
and whether if it's sex addiction, food addiction,
Mhm.
drug addiction, whatever, I think
Mhm.
the first step is the person admitting they have a problem
Mhm.
and asking for help. Hi,
Mhm.
Garnet.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, that it's
Mhm.
hard to help somebody if they're not interested in getting help.
Right, because some people don't even realize that they have an addiction, even if it's a chemical addiction. They could be, staggering and falling in the street. But if nobody has ever said, I think you're an alcoholic, they're never going to put that together. They just think I
Right,
need to figure out how to use alcohol in a way that doesn't create these problems.
right, and it's like our current Speaker of the House
Mhm.
is, for entertainment purposes only, in just my opinion,
Oh.
seriously deranged. Um,
Mhm.
he and his son, his teenage son,
Mhm.
have a pact between them
Mhm.
to monitor each other's porn habits.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking to myself, okay, this kid is like 12, 13,
Mhm.
something like that.
Mhm.
And you expect him to be responsible enough to tell an adult, his father,
Uh-huh.
"Oh, dad, you're watching too much porn. You need to lay off." It's like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, I don't see that happening. I mean,
Well, it sort of sounds. Well, that's the thing about sex addiction. When you start to hear these things, we sort of it sort of sounds weird because we think that if you've not been affected by it, you just think of it from a, I guess, a normal point of view. What what he would be considered would be an accountability partner. And it's like if a person goes in for sex addiction treatment, their therapist, and some people go into residential treatment, which may be like 30 to 45 days. Some people go into just go to a private counselor. And what they will do is they will say you need an accountability partner, someone who can someone that you can be accountable to. Now your accountability partner, you actually have to tell that accountability partner your behaviors, your
So there's a level of trust that goes with that.
yes,
You
yes.
know, trust that the accountability partner
Hmm.
is going to actually hold you accountable and not
Hmm.
use it as blackmail or something.
Exactly.
And the accountability person to trust that whoever the addict is and whatever the situation is,
Hmm.
that they're actually telling you the truth
Hmm. Right.
on
Hmm.
when they get hit with this or when they get, when they found themselves developing this habit.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
Now, look at what
Now I
hippie
know,
look at what hippie texted in typed in, and she's is so correct. It's
yeah,
inappropriate for his son to be his accountability partner. And
yeah.
for
Why the
like
hell
a
isn't his
child,
wife an accountability partner?
that would probably be more appropriate because basically what will happen is they will have an app, and that person can like sort of look at what sites they go to on their phone and things like that. It sounds like the person is watching them, but it's like if you bring something into the open and you sort of let other people know about it, then it's like you were saying earlier, then they know how to help you. But if you're
Yeah,
doing it in secret, you can't be helped.
right, right.
And
G. Covington brought up a good
mhm,
point: is sex addiction leads to violence against women.
they sort of
I don't know if there's proof in that. I
mhm,
personally would think probably so, because
mhm.
the wilder your addiction gets, the more
It's
out
a
of the norm that you need to watch in order
mhm.
to have the same physical reaction
Yeah,
can
it takes more.
escalate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes more and more weirder and weirder.
Mhm,
And, and could that lead? I mean, in the beginning, maybe it's a willing partner
mhm,
that's willing to try stuff with you, but then
mhm.
it can get out of hand real fast.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. I've never read anything or saw any evidence
that's
about
what,
that, but there's a possibility because some people will get into like rough sex, S&M sex, things like
yeah,
that. That is a strong possibility.
your dominatrix style,
Yeah. Mhm,
handcuffs, whips, the whole
mhm,
bit. I mean, and unfortunately, I mean, I think back to the series of books that were so popular.
uh-huh.
What was the name of it? Something Gray something. I don't remember. I didn't read the books. I mean, they
50
made movies out
Shades
of them.
50 Shades
50
of Grey.
Shades of Gray. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and they did three or four books,
Mhm,
um, which kind of romanticized
mhm,
a perversion,
mhm,
and stalking
mhm,
habits and whatnot.
mhm,
Because I mean, I never read the books, I never saw the movies, so I just go by what I've heard other people say. But I have heard other
mhm, mhm,
folks
mhm,
that were like counselors and stuff talk about on panels
mhm,
about, it was romanticizing
mhm,
what can be a serious issue.
mhm,
It's one thing if you have two approving partners that are like, yeah,
mhm,
that's my thing, let's do it. as opposed to taking it a step further with
Mhm.
someone that maybe hasn't agreed to it or
Mhm.
hasn't agreed to that level of
Mhm.
whatever, you know.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
It can be very confusing to people. Oh, entertainment purposes only. There's a high degree of sex addiction among the clergy. I talked
yeah,
to Patrick Carn. He's the one that uh, developed these sex addiction treatments and a lot of the training years ago. And he said that like sex addiction and spirituality sort of sits in the same area in the brain. And sometimes these people,
that
the more
makes sense.
spiritual they get, the more they act out, or the more spiritual they try to get. They try to
Yeah,
get some, it gets crossed up. And a lot of
yeah,
sex addicts will confuse sex for intimacy because there are some people who really can't be intimate with people and speak openly, but they feel intimate when they feel connected when they are having sex. So
yeah. It's a spiritual experience almost for 'em.
right,
The
right.
orgasmic
Mhm,
experience can be
mhm,
spiritual.
mhm. And sometimes
And
when
there are a
they
lot of older pagan religions and stuff that they part of their ritual was either all the members that were there having sex with one another, male,
mhm,
female, didn't matter, or one person would be chosen to be the recipient that night, and
mhm.
everyone else in the group would then
Wow.
perform sex acts on them. But it was always someone that was fully, okay with it,
Mhm.
and they talked about um, it
Wow.
was it was done as in a form of worshiping your god, your goddess,
Mm,
whatever.
mm,
Magic, yeah, sex magic, where
mm,
it's very.
mhm, mm. And,
There's a lot of fine lines you run into, I think,
I think so.
with this topic.
I think so too, because sometimes you'll get people in groups who they will like if you get a charismatic leader and they'll normalize this sort of thing so that they're satisfying their needs, but other people are, they're using other people in it, and other people think, this is what we do. And I think it can be a manipulation as well. But I think anything that
Absolutely.
you don't feel comfortable with, or you don't feel, or you start to feel like, okay, this has outgrown its usefulness, and people don't want you to walk away from it, it's more their issue than yours.
Right.
That's
I
what I think.
mean, it's I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if it's between two consenting adults and nobody's getting physically harmed,
Mhm.
whatever flips your switch, yeah, I
Mhm.
don't care,
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
I don't want to watch it, I don't want to hear about it, just,
Mhm.
whatever. But when you start involving children,
Mhm.
minors, into that kind of thing, then it becomes a perversion almost in my mind. Now, I may
Mhm.
be off on that because I'm not
Mhm.
coming at it from a counseling point of view, but
Mhm.
just from having been a survivor of sexual molestation,
Mhm.
I know how difficult it is to draw those lines,
Mhm.
especially when you're a kid, because you're not
Mhm.
quite sure, did I do
Mhm.
something wrong? What did I do
Mhm.
to have this person do
Mhm.
this to me? And of course,
Mhm.
those that are seriously sick in the head with it,
Mhm.
they're going to make that child feel like it's your fault this is
Right.
happening,
Right.
and you're responsible
Mhm.
to keeping your parents or your siblings or whatever from being
Mhm.
injured
Mhm.
by agreeing. That's that
Mhm.
manipulation there.
Mhm.
Um,
Mm. Look at G. Covington's comment. It's the third one up. Uh,
yeah,
what I would, and I've thought about that, and what I thought was, because I heard maybe a
I've heard
last
people
weekend, a
say it, but
couple of
I've never
weekends.
seen any actual proof of it.
Well, think about it. A couple of weekends ago, the somebody was talking. I think it was on 60 Minutes. They were talking to the Pope, and they were talking about the idea of priests getting married. If
Hmm.
you think about it, a lot of people who are gay, and if they're in a religion that says they can't be gay, they ask God to take it away from them. But if they are secretly living a gay life, they're in the right place because no one would ask them, why haven't you gotten married? You see what I mean? And so,
Yeah,
and I do believe that anything you do in secret just grows, it gets out of hand.
and I
I do
think
believe
that's like with any addiction, it's the abuse of it,
it. Mm-hmm.
it's the secrecy of it,
Mm-hmm.
it's the willingness to
Mm-hmm.
hide in the dark, make excuses for,
Mm-hmm.
find other means to cover up
Mm-hmm.
what it is you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
because somewhere I think in somewhere in your brain you're
Mm-hmm.
realizing this is wrong,
Mm-hmm.
or this is not acceptable behavior, in the
Mm-hmm.
society.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a time when two men or two women getting married to one another was considered an abject, um deform I want to say deformity, but that's not the word.
Mm-hmm.
um uh
Okay.
more like a,
Unconventional.
yeah, that would fit, as well as just a perversion, I guess, is
Mm-hmm.
the best word I can think. I was trying not to
Mm-hmm.
use that word, but I couldn't think of the other word I wanted to use.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so you have these, uh, beat the gay out of someone
Mm-hmm.
because what they do you look at as a perversion,
Mm-hmm.
when it's just two people that love each other and want to
Mm-hmm.
be together in every way that a couple would be together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are a lot of heterosexual couples that, either sex is not part of their
Mm-hmm.
agreement of what they do, and so they both go outside the family
Mm-hmm.
to get what it is that they're looking for,
Mm-hmm.
or it becomes a real issue that can cause breakups, divorces,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because one is having to be suppressed by the other of not being able to live their truth, I guess,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But then that's when a lot of people thought being um, homosexual or a lesbian were considered perversions, that was
Mm-hmm.
not normal.
Mm-hmm. They
When
consider them mental disorders. They had it in DSM.
in the DSM, yes, I
Mm-hmm.
remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because it wasn't what
and
they wanted it to be.
yeah, I mean, and it's people use religion to kind of cover it up, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
to hide away from the fact that what you're into is considered a perversion to
Mm-hmm.
society.
Mm-hmm.
But if you change societies, it may not be a perversion in the other society.
Right.
You leaving, honey? All right. Have a
Right.
good night. Be careful. Love you too.
Right, because
Um,
they but do you know there are a lot of societies where things like that happen, and no, it wasn't a big deal. Nobody, really, it wasn't a big deal until people came in and told them how wrong it was for so long. and then they realize, oh, this isn't going to be good. Things like that.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, it when you start talking about sex and all of that, that there are a lot of lines that become very gray. You know,
Hmm.
there's no definitive line. This is good. This is bad.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, at one time it may have been seen that way, but I think as
Hmm.
mankind has sort of achieved a little bit higher consciousness,
Hmm.
it's a matter of, whatever flips your switch.
Hmm.
Who cares? You're not hurting
Hmm.
anybody.
Right.
And then you have extremists on the other side who still wants to see it as a perversion. And
Hmm.
um, but to me, that line becomes very definitive when it's children involved,
Yeah.
because they're not emotionally or mentally developed enough
Hmm.
to truly understand what's going on and to give their consent.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
And hence issues with rape.
Hmm.
Whether it's a man or a woman that's been raped,
Hmm.
it's the fact that society tends to treat them like, well, what did you do to deserve this? Well,
Hmm.
what were you wearing? Well, what were you
Hmm.
saying? When it
Hmm.
had nothing, that's got nothing to do with what's going on, you
Hmm.
know.
But
Um,
one thing, Sherry, I think that's a cop out to not deal with the real issue, to not deal with what's really going on, because I've seen and I've talked to people. Well, I've seen people say, if that ever happens to my child, I'm gonna kill somebody. Entertainment person purposes only. But you don't see anybody lying dead in the street. It happens all the time. Most people
mhm.
just freeze because they don't know what to say. They haven't been in situations where they actually were open, honest, and direct. And
Yeah.
like you say, even if somebody did scream and yell, "This happened to my child," they try to shut them down because they would feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. Hence why the church was able to hide, all the children that were molested
Yeah.
for generations.
Yeah.
They would just shift the priest around to another parish,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
as a way of just kind of hushing it up instead of
Mhm.
dealing with it right from the get go. And
Yeah, because if they had dealt with it, it would stop. But we don't even know how many years stuff like that has gone on because they had a routine for dealing with it instead of dealing with it in an appropriate way.
with the fact that they had a standard response reaction to that sort of thing, it tells me that it's been going on a long time, because
Mhm.
they, they already had it all worked out on how to deal with this,
Mhm.
so that somebody doesn't get in trouble.
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Sue. That's awfully sweet.
Yes. But yeah, Sherry, that it's like people, we think that we are, a lot of times we think that we're gonna behave in one way, but when we're challenged, we may not. And I think that's why we need to get, like, sort of, mm, okay with ourselves and know what we will deal with, because sometimes, the power structure may be so that we can't change anything, but we should speak up about it, because you feel worse when you don't speak about it.
Exactly. And that's true for any kind of trauma.
Mhm.
Most people for God knows how many eons was, don't talk about it, don't discuss it, hide
Mhm.
it, keep it in the closet, da 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 da.
Mhm.
And the person that goes through the incident, it
Mhm.
eats them alive, you
Mhm.
know.
Mhm.
Whereas
Mhm.
if you from the get go talk about it, get help for it,
Mhm.
work out all of the emotions that come with it, that helps somebody
Mhm.
be able to just,
Mhm.
I'm losing my words here, but
Mhm.
it's like when
And
you
it
can talk about it, it's like a means of letting it go.
well, it helps them to make sense of it because when it happens, it's happened in secret, and it was like, "You're not supposed to mention this to anyone." And it's sorta like you get your voice back, that you the way you were thinking about it, you can talk about it. That's what I think. That's what I think, because when a person is in a traumatic situation and people, intimidate them, our mind just sorta shuts down in certain places.
Well, I know when it happened to me, in the moment, you just, again, like you said earlier, you freeze.
Mhm.
You don't you don't you don't know what to say. You don't know what to
Mhm.
do. You're not
Mhm.
sure how to handle it.
Mhm.
And so in a way, your brain just wants to lock it away and say it didn't happen.
Right,
You were
because
imagining
everybody else is
things.
playing pretending it didn't happen.
Right.
Mhm.
Exactly. And what's dangerous is when it continues to happen either to the same child
Mhm.
or multiple children
Mhm.
because the person gets shipped around the country to different areas. Well, there's a whole new crop of kids for him to
Yep.
pounce on.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm. I saw where, Hippie
well, thank
asked
you,
if
Sue. She just did another one. Welcome, Jamie, to the members. Um,
I see where,
Sue gifting
Hippie
away memberships.
yeah, I see where Hippie asked if, uh, female perpetrators were more common now, or just that people talked about them more. Okay. I think it's just this more exposed because nowadays children are more verbal, or just society. We talk about more than we've talked about in the past. And believe it or not, we're supposed to be uh, our society is more open to dealing with things in therapy than other societies. So I think that's what we're seeing. Anything that's happening is just being exposed. People are talking about
Yeah, Rose brings up what was the movie that there was a movie done many years ago. Um, I remember it had a pretty good cast
it. Mhm.
um, in it, and it was based on actual events of a group of
Mhm.
reporters
Mhm.
suddenly discovering all of these children that are now adults that were
Mhm.
molested by this priest,
Mhm.
and how
Er
this priest would just get shipped around from one church to another church to another church, but nobody ever stopped him from doing it.
Mhm.
And they wound up, I don't remember now in the story how long it took them to get all the information and to get the um all of the victims to come forward and say, yes,
Mhm.
this happened to me. Um, to kind of break it, I mean, it was like New York Times or Washington Post or one of the big papers that the story broke in, and it was
Mhm.
because of this group of journalists who, I don't remember now if it was just
Mhm.
somebody saw or heard something or somebody
Mhm.
knew somebody who was a survivor
Mhm.
of this particular priest. And when they started looking into it, it was like, oh my God, what have we discovered?
Mhm.
Kind of thing. And it was that was kind of the start of suddenly seeing priests being held to account and the church being held to account for
Mhm.
not doing something about it, just shipping them around to
Mhm.
different areas.
Yeah.
And So I think it was in Boston, Rose. I don't remember because I know, like Louisiana, Boston is heavily Catholic
Mhm.
in their society.
Mhm.
Um, just like in Louisiana, I mean, we don't even have counties in Louisiana. We have parishes.
Yeah.
That's how strong the influence from the church was,
Uh-huh.
and you got a damn Catholic church on every other corner. In between those are the evangelical churches. I mean, you
Uh-huh.
can't drive down the street without seeing two or three churches
Mhm.
somewhere in the route. So,
Mhm.
um, but it's not just. I mean, we kind of squirrel went off into child pedophilia.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
We did.
but sex addiction can cover so much more. Um,
Mhm.
let me put this up. See if I can get it to share again.
Mhm.
Um, Isaac had some really good. Uh, where did it go? Okay, Chrome tab. There we go. Okay. Here is
Yeah.
one of the
Recovery time.
websites. I will go in after the show and I will put in links to these websites
Okay.
um, for y'all to see. Because Isaac sent me several websites last night. I was just too tired to do it last night. Um, of different areas, explaining what it is, how do you find the right therapist for it,
Mhm.
what can you expect if you go into therapy.
Mhm.
There's let's see, did it switch? Okay, this is the other tab. I
Mhm.
figured it out.
Good.
Um, this is the other tab that we were looking at
Mhm.
where you can see different programs. They give an overview, they explain what is sexual compulsivity
Mhm.
and how to deal with that. So yeah, that's pretty.
And iTap is where, and I think you can find therapists. Yeah, you can find a therapist there as well. They're over like training therapists, and the recovery zone, it carries like assessments so that you can do a self-assessment and you can reach out to a therapist. There are a lot of therapists all over the country. Now that website,
Yeah,
that's Patrick Carnes' website, and
let's
they all sort of
see.
tie together. They're linked
Yeah, that's
together in
Dr.
some way.
Patrick Carnes. That's
Uh-huh.
his website.
Mhm.
And so yeah, and I'll put those links into the description box after the show.
Mhm.
That way if you or someone you know wants to look into counseling help for this, you
Yeah.
can, or
Mhm.
just to get a better understanding of it.
Mhm.
Um, let's see. I
Mhm.
guess we can go back here. Go back to
Yes.
us now.
Yeah,
And
sex addiction, just like anything else, is you're really getting to know about yourself. You're gonna sit down. Even one, I think of the YouTube video, the individuals who were presenting it talk. Well, people talk about they'll do meditation so that you can get connected with yourself. Then you start getting
yeah.
information about how these things are happening. Oh, I
Now, see, I put that up what Hippie said because, yeah, I mean, that's when she said, "Are there more women than men,
Mhm.
or is it just because they put it more out there?" But there does seem to be an exorbitant amount of female teachers
Yeah.
who develop these sexual relations with students.
Mhm. Mhm.
I know right here in my own town, we
Mhm.
had one of our high schools is shut down now because it kept being a recurring problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though they would get rid of the teacher and bring in a new one.
Mhm.
So
I was at
obviously
a
they weren't discovering how to properly screen somebody, for that job.
Well,
Um,
one thing, I don't know if you can properly screen. I was at a conference. It's like the teachers, they're given a set of guidelines that they should follow. But if you don't have boundaries, you can't teach them. And I was at a conference once, and one of the teachers says, we were talking about somebody was saying something. They said, "Well, airdrop it to me." She said, "Well, I don't have that on I don't turn that on my phone." And we looked at her like sort of like it was weird. And she said, "I work in a school, and you don't realize how the kids are sending around like nude pictures and things like that. Here in
yeah,
Mississippi, you cannot go onto a every porn site is blocked unless it lets a person. I think they can pay for it, but I think they were trying to do that to prevent children from
yeah,
going to these sites. But
yeah. But now you have these VPN sites where you can get around stuff like that.
Mhm.
And, it
I'm sure
originally,
that
I think, started up for people to get movies illegally and stuff. But
yeah,
now
I'm sure
it's,
the kids can figure out how to get around it, the
oh,
ones
yeah,
that are in this
that they're
age.
going to figure out what to do and how to do it
Right.
before an adult even realizes there's a problem. So,
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
and
It
yeah, there are, you have, well, for instance, you have this whole group now of men,
Mhm,
young, successful men in successful careers in their
mhm,
20s and 30s
mhm,
who can't get a girlfriend, can't get a wife,
mhm,
never even been on a date. It's like, and of course, they wonder what's wrong with me that nobody's interested in me. And they get swept up into some of these groups out there that just really twist their way of thinking. They become very misogynistic and very
mhm.
nationalist, white supremacist type.
But
Um,
Sherry, I think that's an excuse. I got a problem
it
because of
could be.
I got a
So,
problem because of you, because of women. I mean, like, where's your responsibility in this issue?
right, and that's what I'm saying. With these
Yeah,
young men that what do they call them?
incels?
Y'all, incels. Thank you. That's what they call
Mhm,
them, and
mhm,
it's their anger that they can't achieve what they see other men achieving, and they're thinking, well, what's wrong with me? I have a good job, I make good money, I own my own house, and da, 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 da. And it's like, yeah, but did you check yourself at the door with your emotions
mhm,
and how you treat people?
mhm.
A lot of times that simple fact alone is enough to keep people away from you just because
Uh,
you're an asshole. But
that may be a cover for something else that's going on.
that's what I was thinking,
It
is
could
that a
be
way
a
of,
sexual issue, it could be a drug issue. You don't know what it is, but when a person is sitting, if they're so smart, they should be able to figure this out. So why hadn't they figured
yeah,
this out?
yeah,
There's something wrong with that.
yeah,
If I gotta blame
exactly.
people, that means I can't change it. I gotta stay like this, and nobody can ask me questions about it because I don't have any answers. You gotta ask
Yeah,
them.
and it's just like for those, who delve off into molestation and rape and whatnot, it's like there are enough people out there giving away from free or for $20 will do just about anything you ask them to do.
Mhm.
Why do you have to attack someone? It's because it's not about sex, it's about power.
Right,
And
right.
stripping someone of their humanity.
Mhm.
And that's a completely different argument as opposed to I'm just looking for somebody that can help me get off because I have weird
R
inclinations for
right,
sex, you know.
right.
Um, when I was in college, we had I took a health class one year. I needed to take another PE, and I it was shortly after I'd gotten hurt. It was like I can't do PE, you know.
Uh-huh.
I can't jump and bounce around and everything. I was still in braces a lot of times.
Mhm.
Um, so I took a health class, just a basic health 101, you know. And the guy that taught the class had been teaching it for decades. And he had it down cold, you know, with
Mhm.
going through what is considered perversions, what's
Mhm.
considered normal, but kind of outside of the normal range for
Mhm.
most people and whatnot. And he had a friend who was, the year I took the class, his buddy had just retired, who was in part of the FBI um, sexual predator group. And this guy came in and gave us like a 2 hour uh, seminar, 2 hour talk on just the different perversions that people not only do to themselves, but want to do to others
Mhm.
because of their sexual preferences. And when he first started out, of course, everybody's giggling about it and everything. And he's like, I'm not talking about your straight up, you
Mhm.
know, I want you to spank my butt with a paddle or, you know,
Mhm.
whatever. Um, he started talking about some wild stuff. I don't even
Mhm.
know if I could say it on YouTube without it pulling
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
But I mean, he had pictures and everything. He brought like a
Mhm.
slideshow with
Mhm.
actual FBI photographs
Mhm.
taken from bodies being found
Mhm.
because when they were trying to achieve that orgasm, they took it a step too far and wound up killing themselves.
Mhm.
And then it's your family member that goes in to find you like that. Is like,
Mhm. Oh, you're
that's
talking
just
about,
wild.
like, the hanging themselves?
Yeah,
That's what
asphyxiations and
asphyxiation,
stuff.
yeah.
There was one guy he talked about who had this thing about his car. And it was like this sexual thing about his car.
Mhm.
And he had to have the car running so he could get intimate with the tailpipe. Okay, you put two and two together of what fits where, and you got the picture there. And but at the same time, he would leave the car in gear so that it would go in a circle, and he would have to constantly shift and adjust himself as
Wow.
the car would spin in a circle. And of course, everybody in the class was cracking up laughing. He says, I know it sounds funny. He said, but he actually got to the point where he ran over his own self with the car and it killed him. And that's how we found him. You know,
Wow.
when people found this body being drug around by the penis stuck in the tailpipe of this car going in circles in this parking lot.
Wow.
And it was like, okay, I've heard of some weird shit in my life. But that one took the cake. I was like,
Mhm.
I don't understand how that
Mhm.
he was like, and that's just it. He says, when you study that kind of stuff, he says it doesn't make sense to most people. Most people are looking at it and they're like, what
Yep.
the hell were you thinking? You know, it's
ML said, "Gotta go. Not alone in the house." It is
oh
it,
yeah, MLR. That's why I put a content warning at the beginning because
uh,
this I knew this was gonna be
mm,
a touchy topic, so to speak.
well,
But you can always watch replay when
sex
you're alone.
addiction sex addiction therapy is, it is, you think therapy is serious, and you think you have to, I mean, like, you have to share all of your behaviors with your group. And it's usually done in a group. Even if you go into uh, individual, you're going to have like a group.
Eventually, you're gonna have a group. Yeah.
You share all these behaviors, and if you are in a relationship, you'll have to do a, what do they call it, a accountability with your partner. And
Right.
everything that you've told that therapist, they're going to make sure that it's on that accountability sheet so that you tell that person. And some people are asked to do a abstinence contract for so long before they
Yeah.
become sexual again. Their techniques, they're effective if the person follows them, but it's mainly about the person getting in touch with themselves.
Right.
So it
Right.
it it
Um,
it
Hi, Sylvia.
they talk about things that most people would sort of like you say, y'all, you're in the class with giggling and thinking like, "Ooh, we're talking about this." Whatever happened, they just put it out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
They try to talk about it in a respectful way.
Well, and it's hard. It's a difficult topic to discuss
Hmm.
because, especially in America, because we tend to be, despite all the weird crap that happens here, we're
Yeah.
pretty prudish compared
Hmm.
to most other countries
Hmm.
and the way they feel about this kind of thing.
Right.
So then
Right.
you run into that aspect of it.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's just, it is an issue. It does need to be dealt with.
Hmm.
It's just a matter of knowing and understanding how to get help for it, or
Yeah.
how to even accept yourself that there's an issue here.
Right.
Um,
Right.
so give me half a second. I hear my stew beeping. I gotta go stir.
Okay.
I'll let you take over.
Okay. I don't know what I'm gonna say. When you leave, I just sort of lose all my words. Yeah, but if you if anybody is interested, Sherry has a link to a YouTube video where these two individuals are talking, two therapists are talking about sex addiction. It's an older video, but it seems really up to date. He talks about the treatment, and she asks a lot of good questions about treatment for sex addiction. And I think it would be a good video just to watch, just to hear, because most of the time, if it's not an issue for you, it's just really hard to understand. It would be just like anything that you've never had any, like some people, they just don't understand addiction. They know it exists, but they don't understand it. But if somebody else who's had an addiction and you start talking to them about it, uh, there's certain key words that you say that they hear, and it makes sense to them. But I think what we can do is we can acknowledge it. If nothing else, we know that help is available, and a person can find a therapist. And most therapists, if they are not sex addiction therapists, they know about CSAT therapists, which are certified sex addiction therapists, and they will refer you to a certified therapist.
There you go.
Hmm.
And that's very handy to have. I mean,
Hmm.
even if, say, you're in a relationship and suddenly your partner is doing things that are really weird to you,
Hmm.
it might be time at least you go talk to somebody to find out,
Right.
am I the repressed one here, or
Hmm.
is this maybe possibly an issue that needs to be dealt with? Um,
Usually a person like that share it's they will be more appropriate with their spouse. They take it
uh,
outside. It's like, because it's so secretive. It's like,
right, yeah,
I want to be legitimate when I'm with you. And that's why partners are just so, they're like, how did I not know this was going on? It just sounds so foreign to them. because
Yeah,
they're
that's
left out
when
of
that
that.
FBI guy was there for that
Mhm,
class that time, and
mhm,
somebody said something about, "Well, some of these people you're talking about are married with kids and da 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 da, and how come their wives didn't know or their husbands
mhm.
didn't know?" And he was like, "That's a good question. We don't have an answer for it. The most we
Right.
know is
Mhm,
simply because they don't want their family perverted by their perversion."
mhm,
And
mhm,
I'm like, "Okay, that kind of makes sense. That
mhm.
it's secret. It's we keeping it in the closet in the dark. It's
Right.
something you're not sharing, not even with your partner."
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
Here we go. Hippie asked P. Diddy,
Mhm.
sexual addiction or power and control with manipulation and blackmail? I think it's both.
That's sort of like he would strike me as like the S&M type because of the all the manipulation and blackmail and
Yeah,
trying to make people feel helpless, things like
yeah,
that. Because if you think about it, a lot of those people, a lot of them would probably be sexual with him, but it wasn't about them wanting to, it was about him tricking them into it. Or if you think about
right.
it like Bill Cosby, it was like he could nah well, he could well, I'm not gonna say he would tend to have put people in an altered state to have sex with them
Yeah.
because maybe that's the way he
So it was
learned.
not consent. Yeah, it was
Right.
non-consensual
Mhm.
encounter, and
Uh-huh.
yeah,
And like necrophilia, where
there's one that creeps me out.
but see, there's just so many different things, and you don't know how people learned what they call their sex map, and so that's what they
Yeah,
keep.
it's like whatever would
Mhm.
point someone in that direction, like the guy with the car. It's like
You never
I
know.
don't I don't understand why you put those two things together. I
Mm,
mean,
mhm. I'll give you a good example. Whatever what anything that we are told, anything that we experience, and we see it over and over, we believe it is right. And sometimes I look at cooking on YouTube, and there's
uh,
a dish that Nigerians make with okra, and it's like the slimier the better.
ugh.
But when I look at right, when, see, that's exactly when I look at it, I'm like, I could not eat that if somebody invited me to their home and they
And
served that.
served that, I would be like, "I'm sorry,
Yeah, I couldn't eat
I'm
it, but
allergic to okra." I mean, I
oh,
don't know, something.
okay. I wouldn't have thought of that one, Sherry, but I'm gonna
Well, I
that's
did because I am allergic to mushrooms, and
are
I
you?
have been to people's homes, invited to dinner, and I have told them in advance, I know that they're cooking whatever from scratch, and I'm
Yeah,
like, "Just don't put mushrooms in it
right.
because I'm allergic to mushrooms. They make my throat swell shut.
Oh,
I can't
wow.
even breathe. I mean, I have to go be taken to the emergency room."
Wow.
And I had this one girl once who like minced up the mushroom to put in her spaghetti sauce because she thought I was lying about it. Now why she thought that, I don't know. But after 2 bites, I was literally gagging at the table. I could not catch my breath. Scared the ever living crap out of me. And
Wow.
she admitted that yeah, she put mushrooms in it because she didn't think it was really dangerous like I was telling her it was dangerous. I was like, "Girl,
Oh.
please, you almost killed me here." And there are people, just like people with nut allergies, they can't have
Right, right.
peanuts or any kind of nuts or anything with a nut oil or anything,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
a lot of people just look at them and go, "Yeah, yeah, whatever," and they don't
Exactly.
they
But
don't
if you
think it through.
but if you think
Um,
about it like that, it's like when a person is stimulated by something and they think, okay, that was good. I'll try it again. I'll try it again. The dopamine just keeps piling up. And it's like, I got to
Yeah.
do it more because I've gotten away with it so long. Same thing with
It's
I see something that doesn't appeal to me. It's just going, I'm just not going to have anything to do with it. So it's that strong feeling.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
wow.
I'm with you on the okra though.
Yeah. I cannot do it.
I can't even,
It's not
yeah,
just
no.
like, it's not just like the fried okra and the cornmeal. It's like okra that they deliberately make slimy.
Slimier. Yeah.
Yeah, and if it's
That
not
was one of the
slimy
few
enough.
vegetables that my husband would not eat was
Really, okra?
okra. He would have fried okra
Uh-huh.
that had been battered and fried because it
Right,
wasn't slimy.
right.
But regular okra, yeah, no. I mean, I know people
Yeah,
put okra in their gumbo.
right,
It's like
right.
it. It's like, why do you want to ruin a pot of gumbo by putting that shit in there? I don't understand. Um, and of course they think I'm silly, but I'm like, yeah, that's just nasty.
I get that.
Um,
I get it.
and if you're ever with somebody and you're gonna cook and they tell you they have a food allergy, for God's
Right,
sakes, don't put that food or oil or whatever into your dish because something as simple as 2 bites and you got somebody choking to death at your
right,
table because
right.
they're having a reaction. So,
Yeah.
and I think
I
with sex addiction, it's kind of the same way. You got to have,
mhm.
it's like they talk about people, that kill people or people that, uh, domestic violence relationships that it
Right,
escalates.
right.
It has to go a little bit more every time to get that same initial rush
Mhm,
that you got the first time.
mhm,
Same is true with alcoholics
mhm,
or drug addicts.
mhm,
It takes more and more and more
mhm.
to bring you to that original rush that you got off of.
Right, right.
Um,
Yeah. Most sex addicts, they try to, normalize their behavior, though, and if they
right.
when they're not able to normalize it, they will try to make the partner feel crazy. Patrick Carnes calls it crazy making.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different things that you have to learn. And those therapists, I mean, like, they're always studying and they've done so much scientific research with that.
Oh,
It's,
yeah.
yeah, but at least
Absolutely.
you just have to be aware of it so that you can point a person in the right direction. Or if you decide that you need help with something, just realize help is available. That's all.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Hmm.
Well, we've been at this for an hour and almost 4 minutes. So,
Hmm.
any last words? Anything else you want to add to it?
Nothing. Just I want to um, validate the audience for being willing to sit through it and hear the difficult things because we always have to hear difficult things. That builds strength, and
Yeah, and be
you
willing to talk about it, not
right,
just here
right,
watching, but actually
mhm,
participating.
right, yeah.
And that was
That's
kind
what I
of
was.
our goal in the beginning was, when I first got this idea and Isaac and I talked
Mhm,
about it, it was like, well, especially if we can get the audience
mhm,
discussing it with us, so
right,
that they're not just
right,
watching us talk about something, they're talking about it. And
right.
that I think is more healing than anything else. So,
Mhm.
it it
That was our last topic, Sherry.
oh no, wait, we got one more, I
Do we
think.
have another one?
Communication skills on the
Okay,
26th.
okay, communication. Okay, I see it now.
Yeah.
I see
Our
it.
next episode when we be back will be episode 23, on January 26th,
Mm-hmm.
and that's communication skills.
Okay.
And in the meantime, y'all need to start thinking about what are some topics you want us to cover,
Yes.
and then let us know. Put a comment in the comment section.
Mm-hmm.
Shoot me an email or something. Just to give us. We kind of ran through all of our ideas,
Yes.
and we had like a list, and it took the year, but we knocked out everything on that list. I mean,
We did, didn't we?
last the last couple of ones have been shows suggested by y'all. So,
Yes.
um,
Yes. The viewers. So that was good.
so yeah. So if there's a particular issue or problem that either you're dealing with or someone you know is dealing with, and you would like to see us cover it, then let us know. And Isaac will do his magic and send me all kinds of websites for me to go and look at. I'm like, if anybody ever goes into my computer and looks at what the stuff is I pull up, they're going to
Oh,
think this woman is seriously deranged.
there's another possible topic. Uh, what is it? A strange adult
Adult children
children?
estrangement. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Wait, let me write that down. Adult children estrangement. That's a good topic.
I
Yes.
like that. And also, hippie, I will be scrub brushing my brain as well. But
Oh, and that was just the funny one. I didn't give y'all like the
yeah,
really
I believe that.
gross,
I believe
sad
that.
ones.
Uh-huh.
And they are still is like he had like a slideshow and everything.
Hmm.
And those images are still burned into my brain
I know, right?
and will be for the rest of all eternity to think, oh my God, I can't
Yeah.
believe they did that. It's just
Hmm.
it was truly, I mean, at one point during the class there was a handful of people that said, I have to leave. I can't sit through any more of this. I mean, it freaked them
Right.
out so bad.
Right.
And so yeah,
Hmm.
but I like that suggestion, hippie. Thanks.
Me too.
Um, so yeah, if y'all get any other ideas, things you want us to talk about, mental wellness, counseling type stuff, then
Yeah.
shoot an email or leave a comment, and we'll look into that. So
Yes.
until our brains regenerate a new list,
I know, right?
Isaac needs to poll all his counselor buddies and say, "Give me some topics we can talk about
I know.
online that we won't get shut down for."
Yeah, that's what we have to be
We
careful.
do have, well, and that's what I was actually reading something from a YouTube creator point, and it was saying, if you're going to have difficult topics or extreme
Hmm.
language or something to help cover you so you don't get in trouble for it, put up a
Hmm.
content warning.
Yeah.
And so that's why I've started running content warnings
Good.
at the beginning of the shows, just so everybody will know. I mean, most of y'all already know, but if someone new comes along,
Yeah.
they're looking at that and going, "Oh, okay, this is kind of weird." But so yeah,
Okay.
that's all I've got for now. I mean, it's an interesting topic, and it can go in
Yeah.
so many different
It
directions. It's
it can. It can.
in But thank y'all for coming and spending your
Yeah.
Sunday afternoon with us.
Yes.
And thank you, Isaac, as always, for your
Thank
presence
you.
and your knowledge and your willingness to share. And because
Thank
this would
you.
have been a really short-lived show if it was just me.
I enjoy it. I enjoy it.
And I still thank the stars above for Sonia and EQ for introducing us.
Yes. Yes.
And I know when I was in LA and Sonia said something about it, I haven't seen Isaac in a while. And I said, yeah, we do a show together every other week. And she was like, you do what? And I'm like, yeah, he's on the channel with me every other week. We do a show together. How did you get him to do that? She said it was like pulling teeth to get him to come on our channel. I said, I don't know. I just asked. She said, okay. So I said, now we're partners every other week. We get on there and talk about all kinds of stuff. So
Yeah.
she thought that was just the coolest.
Mhm.
All right, hippie, go fix that lasagna. That sounds, take a picture,
Yeah.
post it. Let me see what it looks like. I've never made homemade lasagna. I always used the Stouffer's.
Did you?
Pop it in the oven and let it rip. So I've had homemade lasagna, and it's a difference of night and day
Mhm.
compared to any frozen meal you might get. But
Mhm.
I've never actually made it. So
Mhm.
put your recipe up, hippie. There you go. Put a picture and then put the recipe. How do you make lasagna? I did that, 2 Thanksgivings ago with how do you make a turkey?
Mhm.
How do you prepare a Thanksgiving Day turkey? Because the last minute I had to do a turkey that was still frozen, which isn't a really good thing to do. And then I started thinking, I wonder how many people would not even know what to do
Mhm.
to fix this.
Mhm.
What's the proper way to go about it? So I just grabbed the phone and started recording as I went along. And I've got a lot of good hits on that one, even though
Mhm.
it's been 2 years now. And a lot of people be like, "Oh wow, I didn't know you had to do that." Oh, that's why there's that bag up inside of it. It's like, yeah, you're supposed to take that out. That's the giblets and the neck and all that stuff. You take that out of the turkey. That's why they have it in a plastic bag.
Wow.
But all right, y'all. Y'all have a wonderful afternoon. I'm gonna go tend my stew. 'Cause I'm hungry now, and
Okay.
I can smell it. It's like, yeah, buddy, I'm ready.
All right.
And we will be back in 2 weeks, like I said, on the 26th, and
Mhm.
we will be talking about communication skills,
Mhm.
and then we'll go from there. So,
Mhm.
peace out, love, joy, rock and roll, whatever. What is it? Sex, drugs, and rock and roll?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
let's just stick with the rock and roll, leave the
Right.
rest behind. So,
Yes. Yes. Okay.
all right. Bye, everybody.